Hey everybody. Well, gonna go over my bug out bag here, and first it's gonna start with a Maxpedition Vulture 2. Normally I get kind of down on the tactical stuff. Maxpedition just makes the most fantastic quality, and so I'm gonna kind of get over that. Their stuff is just fantastic, and I don't mind, looking kind of obvious if I know the gear's gonna hold up. First thing to start with on the outside, I usually have a couple of tools. First being some wire cutters. The thought behind this is for chain link fence. That's something I have all over. Well, it's all over the country. It's certainly all over my neighborhood. And sometimes you can go over it, sometimes you can't. Second tool, and one I kind of scoffed at, was the first time that I was told this, was a pry bar. And pry bar is probably one of the most useful tools you can have. I mean, you can open nearly any door with it. You can go through walls with it. There's pretty much nothing that it can't do. And in a real kind of disaster situation, if you need to get out of something or into something very, very quickly, this will do most of it. Not everything, but you can't have everything with you, but this will do a lot. Something I'll usually have is some rope. Again, this is not static line. This is not for climbing officially, but in a pinch, it's rated over 1,200 pounds. And if you needed to lower something or pull something, or in a real pinch, lower yourself down out of something, you can. One thing that I've done is I've got a good knot and a good carabiner on it. Carabiner's also rated over 1,200 pounds. So in a real pinch, if I had to hook this and put it around something, I could, and that would take care of me. That's not in the place of paracord. I'll get to that. I'm a big believer in paracord. Smegma. This I kind of laugh at these. You see them in every movie, and everybody's got one. It's a great tool to have. It's a sling if you need it. It can be just about anything from a towel to a headscarf. I mean, it's got a lot of uses, and for a couple of bucks, it's probably worth throwing in the bag. A few things I have multiple of, like Gerber suspension tool. I really like this. I think this is probably the best of all of the different ones made, and there's hundreds of them that get made, from absolute garbage up through the really good Gerbers and Leathermans. And I've got to admit, I'm a big fan of the Gerber. I'm a big fan of the suspension. There's pretty much nothing it can't do, and I like that it's spring-loaded. The second one that I've got is the Skeletool by Leatherman, which is a really excellent tool, and it's very well made and very well thought out, but it's not spring-loaded. And if you're trying to work one-handed, to be honest, having that spring-loaded is really worth its weight in gold. Now, the Skeletools, I'll usually have this hanging from a belt loop. I'd have a few more of these if they weren't so expensive. I got this one crazy cheap, putting a bunch of coupons together. I got it for 25 bucks, but I've seen these run as high as 80 bucks for the black ones. And I'd like to have 2 or 3 more, but that's not going to happen. First aid kit on the outside of the pack. It is not detachable. I'm planning on getting a different pouch here at some point. This is just kind of a generic pouch that it's in. Mostly this is focused around trauma, but there's also a few things in there like ibuprofen, acetaminophen, antidiarrheals, things like that, because you can't get dehydrated, and chances are if you're using this and you're really fighting through the bush or whatever, you're probably going to be sore. So those things are worth having. The one thing I do really recommend is the Israeli battle dressing. These are just a couple of bucks. These are really cheap. You can get them on eBay. You can get them all over the place, but not eBay, Amazon. Amazon's probably the cheapest place to get them. Nice thing about it is you can put it on one-handed. I'll use this pack when I go to the range sometimes, and if I'm there by myself, if you happen to catch a ricochet in the arm, or if you have just any of a number of things that could happen, have a misfire, have something just go wrong, having a bandage like this that you can do one-handed if you are disabled in one arm is really worth having. These are now being issued to nearly all U.S. servicemen, so we should think about it. I'm going to go through a couple of things here, some of the exterior stuff, some of the interior stuff. The one thing I do have that I haven't fashioned on the bag anywhere yet, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to do that, is a Gerber LMF um, fixed blade knife. And this is a little overwrought. It's a big knife, but for the money, this is probably the best knife on the market. And you can spend $200, $300, $400, and I'm sure more than that, on a good fixed blade full tang knife. In this case, it has the sharpener in it. You can detach the plastic here. You can use it as a hammer. It's got a glass punch on it. It'll attach on Molly. It'll also comes with the clips so that you can just put it on your leg if you want to. You can also, I mean, there's lots of different ways to attach it. You can even just put it through your belt loop. Put it through your belt. So it's a great knife to have, and it's, for what it is, it's very reasonably priced. So there's lots of great testimonials on the internet for this. One thing I'll just jump to here real fast. I'm jumping around a bit. Gloves. These are not tactical gloves. These are just red. These are Sam's Club. These are $6 or whatever. Have gloves. They're fantastic. These are gloves that are very tight fitting. I can still work most machinery with this. I could still work a firearm wearing these. So you're in pretty good shape. Now, should they be red? Probably not. At some point in the future. I also have a gray pair that I use quite a bit. That's usually in here today. It just happens to be the red pair. But highly recommended that you have some good work gloves. Transition here a little bit into food and water and hygiene. Got 2 MREs. I'm not a huge fan of MREs. I don't think they taste very good, but they have one thing going for them, is they last an incredibly long time. I've had these in here about a year. They're good for up to about 5 years. And for something that'll last 5 years, that is definitely worth having. Again, if I had to do it all over again, I would order them by the components. So maybe instead of having the full things with the drink mix and the cracker and all of that other stuff, not that that isn't great to have, but for a bag where every ounce counts, maybe I'd go to like beprepared.com and order just some of the meals. Just, it's an evolving process. One thing I do have, I have a canteen. Obviously water is very important and going to be very important. I have an aluminum cup. This isn't really meant for drinking so much as it is meant for cooking potentially. And I've got an Esbit stove. And there are a lot of different stoves on the market right now. A lot of very high-end camping-oriented stoves like the Jet Boils and things like that. And those are really good, and if you can afford it, and if you have the room for it, and if you have the weight for it, they're wonderful and they're worth having. But the Esbits are about $12 if I remember right. It stores 4 in it. The individual burning components last a long time. You'll get more than 1 meal out of each one. So it's worth having. I also have a few more of those. In addition to that, because I'm kind of working under the assumption that I'm going to have some access to bottled water in a pinch if I have to literally just grab and go. I'm going to have a few minutes to grab a couple other things. But if that isn't the case, I've got a few emergency waters in there. Again, this isn't going to last forever, but having these on hand, these are good for a very long time, and they could keep you alive. Remember, water is probably the most important thing you can have. Hygiene is very important, and I've got a couple of different items for that. One are the bio wipes, just because you're going to have to go to the bathroom, you're going to have to wipe with something. But again, you're going to be able to keep yourself clean, you're going to be able to keep your gear clean. This does a lot of things, and it biodegrades very fast. So I mean, there's that component of it as well. But it's good to have, and I think a lot of people kind of overlook the hygiene side of things. In addition to that, I've got these were $1 at the checkout line. Colgate Wisps, and it's a toothbrush with toothpaste already on it that you just crack the seal on these things and pull it out, and it's ready to go. Again, hygiene in this kind of scenario is going to be very, very important, and it's going to mean the difference between being able to, accomplish whatever task that you've got to accomplish and potentially not if you're sick or if you are doing something that keeps you from being able to perform. Poncho. Again, it's just a green poncho. They were clearancing these out. I have 4 or 5 of them, one in every car. It's better to be dry than it is to be wet. And in addition to that, it's better to be warm than it is to be cold. I've got a few of these little hand and body warmers. These are great to have. Every spring they clearance these out. I've got dozens of them. And I live in the upper Midwest. It does get very, very cold. Normally in vehicles that I travel in and things like that, I've got clothes for the weather. But again, it can make the difference. So just a little bit of comfort. They're very light and they're very thin, and it is worth having. A little bit more food. I've probably got a little more than I need. Of course, that's obvious. Again, things that last a long time. Some little snack sticks, some sunflower seeds. Again, also comfort foods. Also, if my kids are with me, they'll enjoy this. There's lots of things out there. I tend to have lots of multiples. I have a lot of glow sticks. I think glow sticks are just fantastic. Also, in an emergency where there may be natural gas leakage, it's nice to have the glow sticks because they're guaranteed not to start a fire. They will not ignite anything. Now, what are the chances that your flashlight will? Frankly, pretty slim. But it is technically possible. So, again, in the vein of trying to have 2 of everything, 2 flashlights, both LEDs, big fans. They do lots of great things. Batteries last a long time in store, and I also have lots of spare batteries. Space blanket, always good to stay warm. Purell, more Purell. Again, back to the hygiene. This is not a weapon. It's a saw made for cutting timber, cutting branches. I mean, you're not going to cut down a forest with one of these, but a few branches to start a fire. And I have quite a few tools for starting fires. Magnesium. Somewhere around here, I've got matches that have escaped me. I probably put them back in the front. I've got matches and lighters. Or not. Oh, here we go. Here are the matches. Again, 2 different sets of matches. Some kept in a waterproof container, some not. Eating utensils. Something I want to touch on real fast. I've got a couple of different knives. Obviously I showed you the big Gerber LMF knife. I also have this SOG Flash 2 spring-assisted knife. Now I normally carry this in my pocket. It's a very sharp knife. It keeps a great edge on it. And one of the things that I really like about it, especially because I'm left-handed, is that it lets you flip the clip, but the clip goes above the actual handle of the knife, so when it is in your pocket, the knife itself is recessed so that you can see the clip in the pocket, but you can't really tell that if it's a knife or not. These are great knives to have. They're not cheap, but they're not expensive compared to a lot of knives. They keep a great edge and they're very tough. I have 2 of these. I have the Titan 2 and the Flash 2. Paracord. I have a lot of paracord, probably more than I need, but you can never have enough of it. It is a great tool to have. And then I've got a couple of these little carabiners, and the thought here is that you can clip it around and cinch the rope tight, and you can get it tighter than you ever could just by pulling on it. And it's really worth having, and the paracord's great, and this is just a great accessory to go with it. And that is about all that I have in my bug out bag, and I'm really interested in comments. It's not great, it's a work in process, but it's a start. So any comments are really welcome, and thanks a lot.